And you got some stuff that we need to do thank yous for?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're very black themed today.
It's all right.
Very dark. You look good in black.
I do.
If you don't say so yourself. Did we go live or what?
I don't know.
Joseph Mensch is here, so we must be live.
Where do you see that?
Watch this.
Hola!
Joseph Mensch, say hola. What's up, Joseph?
Oh, that's cool. Why? See, I'm seeing a whole bunch. I don't see Joseph. I see...
I don't know.
Weird.
Who knows?
Hola?
We're working with some new stuff, so bear with us, but we are gonna...
I don't think we're live. It's not showing live on my side.
Really? Where are you?
Are you on the Wood Whisperer?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so.
Because I'm on Offcuts.
Did I screw up already?
No. See?
No, see?
I just needed to refresh.
You little so-and-so.
I just need to refresh.
All right. So here's the thing. I've done a little personal survey for myself, and it has come to my attention that I am snarkier when I'm wearing my glasses.
Oh, really?
At least I think so. And I think I kind of look a little bit more like a jerk when I have the glasses on. So I've decided that I'm going to do Friday Live without my glasses now, because I think I look a little friendlier.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Well.
No, the problem is I won't be able to read anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have to read everything.
I can't see anything, but it'll be fine. All right, so hey, it's Friday Live. I'm Marc.
And I'm Nicole.
I forgot that I was supposed to say something after that. And we're going to do a little show here for you today.
Yeah.
Talk about some woodworking stuff, give you a little heads up on what's going on in our little woodworking world. We're going to start off by thanking a few people who helped us out over on Patreon. It's patreon.com/woodwhisperer if you want to contribute and have a chance to have your questions answered on the show. We also get questions from the YouTube chat room if you are here live. And we want to thank Austin Jones, Sean Harrison, and Anthony Fisher. So thank you so much, guys. And a lot of times people want to know, what do we do with those contributions?
Yeah.
Usually I buy Nutter Butters.
That's what you say.
That's an inside joke from Facebook. No, actually, it of course goes into things like plastic clocks. Now, seriously, though, a lot of times with this show, it's so, unlike anything else we do, it's so viewer driven in terms of like what people want. What are they looking for? Do they like this? Let's make sure we try to funnel resources back into that. So we've done that, and in trying to solve some issues with the live stream, hopefully today you'll see some improvements in that. But I did have to buy some gear to make this happen, and the gear that I bought 6 months ago and spent like $700 on is now a little pile of duty in the corner.
Well, it didn't.
It worked okay. It wasn't right for us.
This is what I like about us. We like to try things.
Just tell us what we like about ourselves.
No, in the business. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Not being afraid to keep
trying
to improve, try new things.
We try.
Always continue to learn. Always be a student.
Always.
So that's
why we like ourselves.
No, that's not what I mean.
That's how it sounds to me.
I know.
Okay.
But what I like that we are always learning.
Well, we're trying to get better.
It's a good philosophy to have.
Yeah, I think someone had said when I did my live test, why do you listen to everybody? Just do whatever you feel like doing. But the problem is, I'm actually my harshest critic. I will notice a problem before anyone else does, and I will probably be the most upset by it.
And it'll be like a little gnat. It'll be like
in my ear until I fix it, and hopefully we're going down that path.
Show them a cool thing.
What cool thing?
Put the thing on the thing.
What thing?
Pick a comment.
Whoa,
okay. Doug finally got here.
Doug Connor finally got here. That's great. Is that what you wanted me to do?
Yes, I did.
So let's get on with the show today.
Yeah.
Do we have some thank you stuff
I do. I just have, I got a package in the mail and I was like, what is this? Why did somebody send us hairnets? And I was thinking maybe they saw your last video and
maybe they confused me with Cremona. I imagine Cremona has a lot of small little black hairs all over his finish.
But no, it's not. If you look closely at these, they do look like a hairnet. But they also have a little hole right there.
A little peepee hole. What do you do with that?
And this is from Tyler.
Are they underwear?
No. It's for an HVLP system for overspray.
Sure.
He's a young startup, and I said, look, go ahead, send them to me. We'll show them on the show. Mark's not really spraying much now, but he has a Fuji spray Q5.
This is great because it'll let my hair breathe a little bit.
It's a cover for the spray gun that reduces overspray.
So it keeps the gun clean?
You can use it on the gravity feed and the siphon cup gun styles. So that he sent you 3 of them. So whenever you get around to spraying, you can put this on.
One from a head and one from a gun.
There you go.
We look good like this.
So there you go. Tyler, I would direct people to your website, but your website is not ready.
Oh, Tyler.
So if you're watching this on the replay, maybe it'll be ready. And
my mom just asked if we have
tycovs.com, but it's just a WordPress site right now.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's tycovers.com.
Tycovers.
Okay, what else?
TY. So there's something going on in the U.S. right now that's kind of sucky. A lot of government employees are on, is it furloughed?
Furlough.
Sorry.
But you can call it furlong.
Furlonged. Yeah, it makes me think of like Everlong.
Foo Fighters?
Foo Fighters.
The Fuji Fighters?
The Fuji Fighters.
You should just stop using words, Nicole. I don't think it's your thing.
I like to make up my own words.
Yeah, you do.
So I actually came across this guy on your Instagram, and I checked out his Etsy store because he's like, he's having to file, I think, unemployment for the first time ever.
Yeah, it's rough.
And he's like, well, if you can, check out my Etsy store. I'm like, hey, I'm going to check out his Etsy store. And I was really excited by what he offered in his Etsy store, so I actually picked up a few things. And his name is Rowdy Penguin Productions.
Oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know of.
So him. I picked up a few things for you, and I just wanted to show the one that I was most excited about.
Okay, hurry up. There she goes. She's picking it up. I'm going to narrate it. She's holding it. She's coming back.
How cool is this?
Oh, look at this thing.
So
Colorado, baby. This is
even lights up.
It's great.
So
people love this view because it completely blocks my face. It's good.
So I just wanted to say thank you to David. He said he was a little nervous that a piece of his was in another maker's space. So don't be nervous.
Don't be nervous.
We're just going to put it. Maybe we can
make some room on the wall that has no room.
Well, we can take the Colorado because it's dusty. So we can put this.
We're not taking the flag down.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
We'll find a place for it though.
Cool. We'll put it down over there so you don't have to go too far.
All right. It's
that's
super
awesome.
heavy. So I just wanted to say thank you to David, and I hope this shutdown ends soon for everybody.
Don't we all? Okay, well, I think I can get into the meat and the taters, Nicole.
Meat and the potatoes?
So just to give you a quick update on what I've been working on in the shop, I'm doing a shoe rack. I'm going to call it the humble shoe rack because it's anything but. It's got through mortise and tenons with mahogany and figured maple for the sides. It's the stupidest thing I've ever made.
No, it's not.
But it's going to work. It's going to be really, really nice.
You made it for me. I've been asking for a shoe rack forever.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those projects. So I have a bunch of through tenons that are going to go through the figured maple sides. So all these little mortises here, I still have to square them up. But this, could be a little bit tricky depending on how you approach it. And this is, by the way, going to be a free project video coming out soon. So I have a little clip here so you could see how I make these using this little mortising jig / template. I'll give you the process here so you can take a look.
Ooh.
Yeah, so basically I tape it on using a little bit of CA glue, the CA glue blue tape trick. Pop it on, lining up center lines. I got a little insert there. That's something you'll see in the video why I'm actually putting those little inserts to make different mortises. The thing is though, there's no opportunity for dust collection in this setup, so you have to stop every once in a while to suck that stuff out. If you don't, it's bad news. There you go. There's a little mortise. Look at that little mortise. Yeah, if you keep the dust in there, there's a lot of chatter, there's a lot of opportunity for the bit to move, so the smoothness of these walls, which is critical in a through mortise, it just gets all mangled. You might get a weird gouge on your starting points when you first plunge, so you got to take your time, remove all that dust. And that's kind of what I've been doing the last couple of days. Of course, with 16 of these mortises, squaring those things up, I'm doing it by hand. You know, people are like, why don't you use the mortiser? Well, look at the orientation of this board. A lot of times, if you're going to use the mortiser, you need to have a front to back, you know, motion that would handle this, because I'm not mortising in the orientation we normally would. So a mortiser just isn't really going to help very much. Not to mention, I don't know about you guys, maybe I'm not as good at setting up my mortiser, but generally speaking, for through mortises, the hollow chisel mortiser is not the tool that I would want to use for that. It's just not my favorite. So there's that. That's what I'm working on, and I do have a little extra something for you guys. So you guys know my buddy Marc Cremona, right?
Yeah.
So he's doing the ultimate wall-hanging tool cabinet for his shop right now. Double doors and like so much storage in a small amount of space. It's great. So every week he puts up a preview so people can see what's going on in that video this week. So here it is. This is a project that's available on the Guild site if you're interested in it.
It's running right now.
This time in the ultimate wall-hanging tool cabinet project, we are taking a look at the final design for the cabinet. So last time we came up with a rough idea of how everything's going to be laid out and the size of everything, and this time we're going to go through and take a look at the final layout, all the joinery, and everything that's going to go into building this cabinet. We'll also talk about some joinery alternatives for those of you who aren't dovetail obsessed like I am. So head over to the Guild site and check it out.
Little Matt, he's so cute.
That's pretty cool.
Do you think he loves it? Oh, I know Nicole.
That's pretty cool.
I know.
Pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
Okay, so yeah, that's at thewoodwhispererguild.com. If you're interested in that project, this one is a doozy. It's a popular one. A lot of people are really
running right now, right?
You want to see my wall hanging tool cabinet?
It's right there.
You're looking at it. It's right over here. I did a guest appearance in episode 2 explaining almost a counterpoint why I like a tool wall as opposed to a tool cabinet. But in the end, I think the tool cabinet for most people is going to be the way to go. Okay, so let's get into our questions, shall we?
I just got a super chat from Justin Ford. He said, for your Nutter Butters or other preferred cookies. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you so much. I do love cookies.
Even though he's pre-diabetic.
Well, look, I'm trying to, look, I don't go halfway on anything, Nicole. So if I'm going to be diabetic, I'm going to be full on
no.
diabetic.
You don't.
No half measures here, sister.
You're fine.
Look, I got this under control.
Yeah, I know you do. All right. We got another super chat from Ness G, our friend Ness, who's in the chat room from Australia. She says, good day, Spags, because it's Australia Day.
Yeah.
We'll be slamming a Tim Tam and shrimp on the Barbie for you.
Nice. Hopefully not together, because that sounds gross.
Yeah, that kind of does sound gross. Could you imagine?
Shrimp Tim Tam slams?
Oh, yummy.
Hope it's Thai food.
Hope you're doing well, Ness.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so what else do we have? I got a question here from a patron over at Patreon. Jerry DeMuth says, hey, I watched the knife block video and I'm curious if you encounter snipe with your planer with those shorter pieces and if you account for that in your rough cut dimensions. Snipe.
We watched up the other day.
I don't have a ton of snipe with my planer. The thing with snipe is it is elusive. It's very, ironically, that snipe is elusive in the Up movie, right?
Yeah.
Trying to fix snipe can be really difficult. So there are a lot of different ways that people attack this, from lifting up the end of the board. Sometimes people will take their outfeed and infeed tables, and instead of keeping them dead straight and flat and planar across, they actually tilt them up slightly so that they are simulating lifting on the board. There are other things you can do with the positioning of your rollers. You got to make sure that those are applying just the right amount of pressure at just the right spot. You also, on some of these planers, have bottom rollers. Those bottom rollers are really there to facilitate rough cut wood. It's not so much a factor for fine woodworking, people who are putting something in there that's already been planed, either with a hand plane or with a jointer. So you could take those rollers and set them all the way down. Don't just make them a non-factor. Sometimes those can interfere with it. But once you go through all of this stuff and you still have snipe, sometimes you do just have to live with it or get a drum sander. That's a great solution. Which I do sometimes. If I have enough snipe there, I will use the drum sander, because I just can't fathom putting like 6 inches of extra stock into my work just so I can cut the ends off. That would drive me nuts. So I try to find other ways. Me too. You know what I'm talking about.
I totally don't know what you're talking
about.
No,
it's like and I'm going to use a cake baking reference, not for sexist reasons, but because I know you would understand.
Cake.
So if you know that this cake pan burns the outside edges all the time, and it's just gone.
I get rid of the cake pan.
Right, but would you buy a bigger cake pan so that the end cake is the right dimension and you're always going to waste it, or would you figure out a way to fix it, right? You don't want to waste the ends of the cake. Actually, the ends are kind of the yummiest part, where they get a little crispy.
No, the inside is the yummy.
Sister? No, look, the ends. Everybody knows. Okay, what else we got?
And we got some more Patreon questions.
Well, let's do one of those. Stumptown. He's pattern routing. He says he found out the hard way that you really need to read the grain when you're going to route across an angle on a part that exposes end grain. And if you're going uphill, he wound up ruining a part or two by doing that. He says, my solution for that job was to read the grain and mark the part up and down so that I could flip it over and route in the proper direction to not get blowout. This involved raising and lowering a bit that had a bearing on the top and the bottom and a 2-inch cutting area, kind of a massive bit. That worked, but it was a pain. How can you avoid this to get parts routed to a template in one setup? Shearing cut bits with 2 flutes, down shear I think, or one of those crazy looking mega flush trim bits from Whiteside or Superior flush trim from Eagle America maybe. They're very expensive, but so is ruining a part for a pedestal base that you have 6 parts to make from a template. So I'm going to show you what I use lately that I really like. These are the mega flush trim bits from Infinity. These work really well. So what you have here is a top and bottom bearing, and it's not just a regular spiral bit in between those bearings. It's what you would call like a compression bit, meaning that it's up cut in one direction and down cut in the other direction. So that if you have this situation with changing grain, things like that, you actually, in a lot of cases with these really sharp bits, you can not worry about it. I've done some things where I've gone against the grain, and you got to be careful. You got to know the wood that you're working with. Sometimes, I mean, maybe if you're working with wenge or something, or hickory, something that tends to split apart very easily, you still need to be careful. But with that shear angle and that style of bit, a lot of times you don't need to worry about it as much unless the grain takes a very, very severe turn, and then you can't fight Mother Nature, right? It's just the physics of the situation. It's going to want to split. You have to be careful. But those bits are going to give you your best case scenario. So those are the ones that I recommend. There's a lot of different flush trim bits out there. The Big Daddy bit was a big one that I used for a long time from William Ing's store. But these mega flush trim bits, they're not super cheap, but these are the kind of bits you're going to live with for a while. But I like those a lot.
Cool.
And that would be a good solution.
All right, we got a super chat. You did a test, if you didn't notice, all these fancy new things happening in the live stream.
Yes.
Mark did a test yesterday, and somebody did a super chat.
During the test?
During the test. And I just wanted to...
I like that person's style.
Andrew Griffin said, this Justin, Mark Spagnolo has smelly farts. That was his super chat.
It's very true.
It's very
did
true.
Mateo get on the computer? Because that's something my son would say.
Yes, right?
Okay.
It just made me laugh because I went through the super chat.
That's cool.
So Andrew, you made me laugh.
Okay. Michael Tamirez says, I'll pile on with the router questions here. Can you discuss the best practices on appropriate speed adjustments for types of wood, size, bits, even the clean bits? With light passes, I'm getting a lot of burning. Want to make sure that there's not one more adjustment that I can make before the answer becomes buy a better quality bit. Can these same rough principles be applied to a drill press? Okay, so you really brought up the two tools in the shop that I actually don't worry that much about speed on. And maybe that's wrong, but it's, I very rarely touch the speed adjustment on my router table, and I very rarely, if ever, touch it on the drill press. I usually wait until I hear something that doesn't sound right. If you use a bit with too large of a diameter at the router table, you wind up getting this vibration, and you can just tell something is off. So I'm not saying to completely ignore these things. That's definitely, like, this is a do as I say, not as I do sort of thing. I'm just being honest. But because if you do spin a bit of a large diameter too fast, past the manufacturer's recommendation, you could have problems with the bit just kind of shearing and falling apart. Maybe that's more prevalent with cheap bits. Maybe it's a question of, like, will the collet then get bent or something like that? You just don't want to do it. But once you get to know your tools, a lot of times you could tell when a bit is happy and when it is not happy. So most of the time I run my router at the same speed.
Is there a smile on the bit when it's happy?
Yeah, you take it out and it's like... I'm so happy. The drill press, similar thing. I think the stakes are a little bit lower at the drill press. You're at a slower speed, and the things you're using, yeah, even if they're running a little bit too fast, it's not like something's going to go flying apart. It's usually not as much of a problem. But my on-paper recommendation for you is that you double-check the manufacturer's recommendation. If they don't have one, use one of those charts. There's a bunch of charts out there that give you, based on the diameter of the bit, a recommended RPM value for that size bit. And follow that as a rough guideline. But once you get some experience with these things, you can kind of fudge it a little bit.
Since you're talking about bits, I'll go ahead and ask Kojak Silverback's question. Why do you need different size flush trimmed bits?
Well, you don't necessarily. I like a larger bit because I find it to be more stable. Skinnier bits tend to have a little bit more chatter, a little bit more vibration. So I just like the stability of the bigger ones. But the larger diameter,
nothing.
The larger the diameter, you're not going to get into tight curves as much. Now, you have to be careful with that anyway with a router bit, because we just talked about grain direction. So if you get into some kind of a tight curve, chances are there's going to be a grain direction problem that you're going to confront. So you got to watch that anyway. But for most long curves, furniture pieces, a big chunky flush trim bit does a really nice job, and I don't usually have a problem where I can't get into a tight radius because I don't have that many tight radii in my work.
Is that how radii?
That would be the plural.
Oh, cool. Terry said, "Hey guys, just caught the show." Oh, are you done?
Go ahead. I got more questions,
okay.
But go ahead.
Just got my joiner. Found a used Powermatic 6-inch for a reasonable price. Going to pick it up tonight. Pretty pumped. Thanks for the good advice.
Yeah.
Speaking of Powermatic, I have a little surprise coming up on February 1st, so keep your eyes peeled on the giveaway page because it's a good one.
It's going to be a big one. Yep. That's cool. I'm excited about it too.
So.
All right, our buddy David Wiggins wrote in. He says, any recommendations on the best type of bandsaw blades for each of the following operations? 1, resawing slabs of exotic woods, and 2, cutting curves and patterns. There's a local company that makes custom blades, and I didn't know whether or not there was a dream combination of TPI and rake angle for the blades that exist. Here's the thing, this is another thing I don't fuss too much about, rake angle or tooth configuration, hook versus, what are the other ones? This is how much I pay attention to it. So you have different tooth shapes and configurations. I really only pay attention to the size of the blade and the teeth per inch. Like any other saw, the more teeth, the smoother the cut, but the higher the friction. So if you're doing a big resawing operation, you don't want tons of teeth per inch. Even though it's smoother, it'll be slow going, and it'll likely wind up burning and causing all kinds of problems, especially with exotics. So if you're doing resawing operations, I mean, you're looking at basically 3 or 4 teeth per inch is perfectly fine. You want something that's going to clear all the chips and be a very aggressive cut. If you're doing curve cuts and fine cuts and you want to be careful, then you want more teeth per inch and probably even a smaller blade because you want to be able to take those tight turns. So I know in particular what David is doing here. He's working with a lot of nasty, hard exotics. I've had some conversations with him, and he's working with like Macassar Ebony, Purple Heart, like the hardcore stuff, Bloodwood.
Oh, yeah.
All right, these things are very hard to cut. They're very hard on your blades. So for you, David, I would recommend looking into something that has carbide tips on it. So Laguna's Resaw King is a good example. There's probably other companies that do this as well. It makes your bandsaw a little bit more like a table saw blade, but you have those little carbide tips on there, and I think those are going to last longer and give you better performance if you're cutting a lot of those exotics. That would be my recommendation. Outside of that, I've been using Carter's blades right now. Those are fantastic. Alex Snodgrass brought me a nice little supply of those. He's
currently on tour with the woodworking shows right now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is he singing all of his old classics?
I don't know.
What do you say when someone's on tour?
Well, he's on tour. Those woodworking shows are going from city to city to city.
He sings the Ballad of the Bandsaw. It's one of my favorites. He's got such a good voice, though. So yeah, their blades are pretty decent. I've had great luck with them, but those are the ones I'm going to use for my general purposes, maybe like a 1/2-inch blade, sometimes even smaller if I'm looking to cut a lot of curves. But shop around. I mean, any brand for general use, as long as you're not buying the cheapest stuff, is probably going to be fine.
Shop around.
Shop around. Shop around. Okay, what else? I got one here from John McCoy. He says, I'm in the pre-finishing stages of the sideboard. He's talking about Cremona's
shaker sideboard.
Currently, my garage is uninsulated, unheated, and sits in the low to mid-40s and high 30s at night. Hey-oh.
Ouch.
I plan to use General Finishes Armor Seal. How should I tackle this? Should I just wait a few months till the temperatures rise? Use a small heater while I'm at home and keep an eye on it? I put too much time and effort into this to screw it up now. All right, I think your last sentence says it all, John. If you don't have the proper conditions, don't bother. Especially on a project like this that you put this much time and effort into. If you can't get the temperature of the shop up to help this finish behave in a predictable manner, I wouldn't even bother. Now, the finishes will probably cure, even in the colder temperature, but it becomes unpredictable. And the longer that finish stays tacky, the more opportunity there is for stuff to settle down into it. So if you extend that, bugs and dust, if you extend that period, it's gonna be a pain in the butt. So either heat up the shop and keep it at a nice warm temperature, especially for the first few hours of the cure process. If it dips down below after that, it's not as big of a deal. But if you can't do that or bring it into the house or do something that allows you to keep this finish warm, I would just wait. It's probably best to wait.
So speaking of heating, we had a question from Michael Gomez. Which garage heater do you have again? Are you happy with them? And I have the link right here. It's in our Amazon shop underneath Friday Live.
I also have a video on this that I did from the shop heaters.
On the Offcuts channel, right?
Probably. But if you just go to the Wood Whisperer website doesn't care what YouTube channel things were posted on. Go to the Wood Whisperer, use the search at thewoodwhisperer.com and search for shop heater, and you'll probably find that video.
I also put the link to the direct one Marc has. I think it works pretty great.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work when we open the garage door, but...
No, nothing works that well when you do that. The other thing is, we have a little bit of an update. All this time that we've had these heaters, when people ask us, well, they're electric, how much do they raise the price? We've been like, we don't notice anything, right? Well, you just mentioned to me recently, I noticed.
Yeah, I did notice it went up about, I'd say 25%.
And I've been using a lot of heat.
Yeah, I was going to say, you used a lot.
And it's been a little bit colder. And so here's the thing, though. Denver is not that cold. And that may sound crazy to people who've never been here. But overall, we have a lot of 50, 60-degree days in the middle of winter. So I don't always have the heat on. And I don't need to run it for as long. If you're, straight up East Coast, New Jersey, New York,
it might be more.
You're going to have cold temperatures that I'm not dealing with. So this type of electric heat is going to be problematic. I also don't leave my heaters on all the time. A lot of people do that in their shop. They'll put it, they'll leave it on. They'll set the thermostat a little bit lower, but they still keep it on so that it doesn't get to freezing. Even if I never use my heaters, I think it would take a very long time before this garage got to a state of freezing.
Because you did insulate it pretty well too.
It's well insulated.
So
I don't think I've seen the temperature in here go far past 50.
Below that's what
50.
I was thinking.
So that's my situation, which means it may not necessarily be your situation. I am out of questions on Patreon.
I have some super chats. We have one from Bob DeVries. Awesome. No way will my wife argue about me making a shoe rack? P.S. Message received. Thank you. So I sent Bob something fun. So it sounds like he got it. I'm really glad.
Cool.
So we also have another super chat from...
Hold on. Sean says, April 1st giveaway, Lee Nielsen tracks off. I like that idea. We should do that.
No, that's not. I got another super chat from Craig. Craig, I'm not going to even try your last name. I'm sorry. Happy Friday. Here's some coffee money. Thanks for the entertainment and wonderful tips. You're very welcome.
I'm going to say that's Craig Shingrin Haman.
There you go.
Let me know if I'm right, Craig.
And then, our good pup.
Abby the dog.
I was going to say pal, but pup. Abby the dog, treats for the pups.
Oh.
Dougie and Millie would lick your butt if you were here.
They would lick your butt. The whole thing. And unless you tell them to stop, they would just keep going.
Dougie does do this weird thing. Since it's been snowing, we get snow on the boots, snow on our pants, and we come in and just licks. Licks our boots.
I was laying there last night and wearing my slippers. And I went to stand up, and I didn't realize he had his head down. I didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was kind of just licking the couch. And I stepped in a sloshy, spongy mess, which was the heel of my slipper that he had been licking for 5 minutes.
So he was sick. Oh, he was really sick earlier this week, and he just kind of passed out on the couch. And if you follow Dougie on his Instagram, I took a picture. Dougie was trying to cuddle up and nap with Marc, but he was sitting up, and he's like It was
Yeah,
so funny.
he wouldn't lay down.
He wouldn't lay down. He just kind of just